Public on Dubai Eye 103.8. It is 2:21. We're talking money matters, and yeah, I'm crunching some numbers here. Whether your kids are 2 or 12 or 17, are you relying on university websites for the cost of living estimates for those students? Because new analysis is revealing that many institutions are providing significantly outdated and misleading information on everything. Looking at the UK, for everything from TV licenses to bus fares. This is a massive financial blind spot for many families here in the region. So we're exploring the implications and how to prepare with our expert Carol Glynn from Conscious Finance Coaching. We've also been hearing from Varun Jain, who's the CEO of Unihawk. They help families find the right university choices for them. And he says it's actually, as Carol said earlier, it's not just about the fees. It can often be about the hidden costs, even if they think they're planning ahead.
Number one, of course, the tuition fee. Let's say even if you're starting when your child is 10 years old, the tuition fee today will not be the same when your child goes to university 7 or 8 years later. So keep that inflation in mind. Second, and a very, very important thing, especially for international students who will need student visas across different countries, even Canada, US, and European countries as well, is how you plan your bank statements. Sometimes parents have money, but they're not able to provide the right financial documents. So making sure the balances in your bank account, the inflow and outflow of money, the source of income, all these things are actually very important things that they have to keep in mind. Third, don't only look at the tuition fee, the living expenses, the medical insurance, the travel expenses, the pocket money for the child, and the other miscellaneous expenses, especially when you're going for, let's say, an art program, or if you're going for a program that requires a lot of international travel or exchange programs. At the same time, you're sending your child abroad, not just to study, but also to prepare themselves for life in general. So exposure is very, very important. I mean, I always recommend parents to keep a little bit of a budget for their backpacking tours, for their travel, for their flights here and there, for time to go for international internships or exchange programs, as I mentioned earlier. So yeah, all these additional costs can also burn you if you're not prepared.
Varun Jain there from Unihawk. Carol, you're here as a mum and as a financial expert, so I'm particularly keen to kind of pick your brains on this, because the sources highlight this really significant gap between what students need to live on and often some of the maximum maintenance loan that might be available. Sometimes that gap is like £8,500 annually. How large of a financial shock is this for families who might be relying on official figures or loan expectations? As Varun's saying there about what to do now for years down the line.
It can be absolutely shattering. I mean, it can be life-changing when people sit down, work out the numbers and realise, right, we thought maybe we were okay for this university, but it's not affordable anymore because like was said, maybe we planned on it 7 years ago and the fees have changed completely. There's also cases where the child has got into a more expensive university and then suddenly it's like, oh, we thought this one, but this is an amazing opportunity. Now what do we do?
That's a hard conversation to have with a child who has hopefully, undoubtedly, worked their socks off to get to somewhere, and you'd hope that there might be some kind of financial relief, a scholarship or contributions or something, but that's not going to be the case. Not everyone's going to get that. And then you sit down and go, you're a credit and you've worked hard, but it's just not going to be realistic. Really, really, really difficult. And as we said, international students are a particularly vulnerable group in this because you haven't got your boots on the ground. You don't know that a bus ticket might be £12 compared to £4.30 that's being quoted, or that, the TV licence price that's being quoted is actually from 2021. And often Varun mentioned it there in terms of having your ducks in a row when it comes to applications as well, proof of funds. And, what are you hearing from parents here about some of the things that they're doing to prepare for the paperwork side as well?
It's another thing that people don't think about, especially if you went to university locally. This is all new ground for us. I didn't have to do any of this. So it's a lot more work for parents from overseas students. It is finding out as soon as possible what the requirements are and start preparing for that. And we're talking 3 or 4 years in advance, making sure that you keep statements on hand. Most people I know, they might get the statement in their email, they never open it, or they don't even do that, or they delete it. And then suddenly you need to get 2 years of bank statements, and there's actually a cost to that as well. If you want to go back to the bank, will charge you for that. So I would say keep all of your bank statements, any employment contracts, any tax submissions you've done in any country. If you need evidence of residences in other locations, making sure you keep bills in place, things like that. Find out what's needed as soon as possible and create a folder and do that on a monthly basis.
Because actually the ramifications are quite serious. You know, this source is talking about what actually happens on the ground for students. You know, 67% of students skipping meals, 60% experiencing money-related mental health problems. You know, there is a broader impact of financial stress on students and parental well-being.
Yeah. And then you're spending all this money to send them there, and then they're suffering. So, you know, it's sometimes we underestimate. You're like, oh, they'll just eat out less. Oh, they'll just socialise, less. But I think we underestimate the impact. And this study is really showing that. What was it, 63% suffering from mental health?
It's wild.
It is.
And, you know, as I said, you know, I worked a bit through uni. I had a student loan. Do you know what? Can I just say, I was always really impressed by the student loans service. Whenever I used to call them up, I'd be like, oh, you're doing a great job. They did not send me flowers when I finally paid off my student loan after what felt like about 20 years. And, you know, occasionally my dad would, you know, stick 50 quid in my account. But there were some pretty lean months of going, okay, we can only afford to buy like these groceries this week, or we'll share this like shower gel, and then, you know, we'll only go to nights out where the drinks are going to be free, or, you know, 50p, or, you know, whatever it might be. Yeah. And I think, listen, and don't get me wrong, I think that's a really important part of the student experience.
Yes.
I think like that is where you learn how to prioritize your money, about the choices that you make. And I made some big mistakes. I got a credit card and I got burnt big time. And I'm glad I did, because I really kind of learnt my lesson.
That's the time to learn.
It is.
Yeah.
Were there students at my university who had never given a second thought to what things cost? Absolutely. So you kind of can get to university and there'd be a huge wealth disparity. You know, this idea of some people having their own cars, or, you know, going on holidays all the time, and then others who, you know, whose parents have really, really, really put everything towards, and, you know, maybe they're the first person in their family to go to university, and they're working pretty much a full-time job alongside studying. And this comparison piece is really, really challenging. And I think for a lot of parents, it's this idea of, we've left it too late, we didn't do enough. And we've had a message about exactly that, actually, anonymous, saying we didn't save early enough and now we are scrambling. Is it ever a good idea to take out a loan to cover education? Is that something any of your clients have thought about or done?
Yeah, people do. I'm seeing more and more that the parents are taking out the loan rather than like the student takes on the debt. And that comes down to, well, one, do you have access to getting a loan? Because not everyone can even do that. And is this university education important enough for you as a family to make this? Because ultimately it is a sacrifice, whether you've saved in advance or you're getting a loan. You know, if a loan is the best option, then it's the best option.
Shop around, though. Speak to Carol first.
Yes.
Carol Glynn with us today from Conscious Financial Coaching. If you do have any questions, do get in touch with a message today saying university fees. As a European citizen, you pay local fees in Europe, which are way less than mentioned earlier. For example, Belgium, Netherlands is around €2,000 registration only. As I said, we're going to be picking a favourite. Or maybe university might not be important to my kids in 8-10 years' time. Let's hope. But if you want to have your say, or indeed you've got any questions, you can reach out on 4001. We've had a message asking, is it better to give my kids a monthly allowance or make them budget from a lump sum for the whole term? And is he getting a jump on financial literacy, saying, I want to teach my daughter some money skills before she leaves for uni. What is the habit she should start now? She's 16. I can see Carol's, the cogs are turning in the studio here. Any questions? 4001, whether it's to have your say or you need to pick the brains of Carol Glynn, who's in the studio with us until 3.
Your ARN News.
The UAE's trade in telecommunications services grew by 4%